with Psychic Focus, psychicfocus.blogspot.com, and today I thought I would look at the New Zealand tragedy, the shooting that happened. And this wasn't the post I was going to put out today. However, I've gotten a lot of questions on it, and I realize this is an important story, and a lot of people do have questions, and it's worth a discussion. So I'll try to craft my words wisely, because the censorship on this topic is over the roof. In certain places, you're not even supposed to have a video. You're not supposed to even talk about it. There's a lot of stuff going on with it. So bear with me, and I'll go ahead and get started. So to start me out, the question I pulled says, Lynn, what are you able to see with regards to the New Zealand tragedy that's left over 50 dead, several injured? Was it only one crazed man, or were there more? The several-page document he left behind was very eerie, not to mention it's not to be discussed in certain areas of the world. What's going on? Is there an agenda? Seems like this is very extreme. Help us understand. And a little background before I get into this. You know, when this was new, this was fresh, when the news was first out there, I was actually able to see the video sent to me, and it was very, very disturbing, and it just, parts of it just felt so off. As I understand, he did a live stream as he did it, and the video that was spread around was the video of the live stream. And then he also released a several-page document outlining his motive for this, what his thoughts were, his philosophy, you know, mainly stating something about the declining birth rate in Caucasians, also naming out prominent conservatives that you hear and see in social media. So there was just a lot of stuff that happened around that time. So it started weighing on me when I watched it, right? And I started to slowly put things together, and I opened myself up because I wanted to know the truth too of what was going on, because some of it just didn't feel right. Like there was an underlying story more than what we see with our eyes. So when I started to really, ponder over all this, it came to me that, first of all, this shooter was a mentally unstable person, which many of you, not even being psychic, have put that together. There was some kind of a mental imbalance or something going on. And he looks as though he had this thing. If you've ever met these people, they're just so loyal to their country, which can be a great thing. But he took it really overboard, and he had this, what looked like a military loyalty. I'm not sure what branch, but I definitely saw a lot of references to that. And I feel like that he served and he saw and even participated in some really disturbing things that created a lot of guilt and trauma. I would almost say like a PTSD type of scenario is what it came through to me as. And not only did these shape his feelings, but it created this hatred for anyone that he perceived wasn't on his side. He always had this us versus them mentality. It's this, me against them, or us versus them. And that's how he viewed the world. That's how he viewed people. He could not see an opposing thought or an idea and objectively look at it and say, I see where they're coming from. Like, that was not in his scope to be able to do that. And his feelings, he made them known. It was like anybody that he came in contact with, I could see him, well, this is right or this is wrong. Like, he was very stern and very adamant about how he felt about things. And this opened him up to be provoked into committing this horrible crime. I got that someone came to him maybe like a year ago. There was some time with this. Started to make friends with him. And it looks like this encounter happened at some kind of a military hospital, or what I saw was symbolic of a military hospital. And again, I'm getting that PTSD type of vibe. Could have been symbolic or could have been literal. And this instigation was a steady project, was the word I heard, by this man till this plan came to fruition and it was go time. So it wasn't like someone came to him and said, oh, we have this agenda and we want you to fill this plan. It was more instigating this us versus them, creating that social tension, getting him so riled up. And then you mix that with someone who's a little mentally unstable, and it's just a recipe for disaster. But that looked like the intent going into this. So then some extra questions that I received, because I keep getting stuff on this, this is a pretty big event. But you want to know, Was he working alone? And no, I get he had a small team. And there was at least 2 other people. And this is what gave him the confidence to do this, as he knew he wasn't going to be alone. And the entire time he was convinced that this needed to happen to save his country. That was the idea that was put in his head. And he was assured he'd have help, and he wouldn't be doing it alone. And then he believed that this was a real mission for the country, and they were like relying on him to completion, and it was up to him to be able to do this. Then did he write that 70-page document that he spread around? He read some of it, he wrote some of it, but the majority was cleverly crafted by this man that approached him a long time ago with the little team. So he was a piece of the puzzle, but he wasn't the whole thing. So then I wondered, thought about, why is he targeting these conservatives in the written document? What was that all about? And I got the goal, the real agenda behind all this is to focus on the countries that still have gun rights in place. And a shooting this magnitude using these high capacity magazines puts a magnifying glass on these weapons. People want to look, who owns these? Who's got these? Who has this legal? And you can't disarm countries all at once, but like a frog in a boiling pot of water, you have to do it slow so people don't notice. And this tragedy, it gets the conversation going, it gets fear going, it gets emotions going, and this geographical area feels more passive as a whole compared to the U.S., which is another country that has a lot of guns. And so this felt like a good place for the PTW, the powers that were, to start their agenda of disarming people, hopefully firing up the base in the U.S. to follow the lead of what happens there. So this feels like really a whole plan to try to strong arm, disarming the world itself. But you have to look at the pockets of the world that maybe are a little more submissive or a little more easily swayed to do so, in hopes that other countries will follow suit. So that feels like that's really the main thing behind this. Conservatives that were named, such as Trumpet, who I call him that all the time, and other outspoken people, they see the direction that the U.S. is going, and they speak out against it. They fight against socialism. They see the culture changing, and they're calling out the PTW, the powers that were. So yes, the U.S. is a melting pot, and they've gained strength by having people come together and people respecting one another and the collaborating and all these different things. It makes strength in the collective. And even people, you can have your own individual beliefs, your own, freedom of religion, freedom of, whatever. But we still ultimately can come together and work for the greater good of the country. However, the PTW, they're promoting division and destroying those respectful collaborations. And that's what these conservatives that were named in this document, they speak out against. They're calling it out for what it is. The PTW don't like it, so of course their name had to be mentioned in this document. So, why is New Zealand have, you're not allowed to have a copy of this or even talk about this in social media. I mean, they're shutting down, certain channels and all kinds of stuff because they don't want this talked about. So that was a good question that people have for me. So one, I saw that the emotions are so high that whatever law they put out there, they want it to be accepted easily. They don't want people debating it. They don't want people to look at any of this. They just want to ride in this emotion of fear, and hopefully, any kind of emotion will override any kind of logic, and they'll be able to pass whatever they want to pass. And I'm not sure if this is still visible in other countries, but because the internet is being scrubbed as we speak, but I see it's also done to keep this hatred against the religion and race alive. So were still, broadcasting this in other countries. So deep down, the PTW want us fighting because you can't fight them if we're fighting each other, and that's a secondary motive for having this happen. Kind of to put it out there, I also feel like if you really analyze this video, which I don't really want to watch any part of it again, I somehow think and feel and get you'll see nudges, whether it's shadows, feet, something, maybe a voice that'll collaborate the other couple people that were with him and he wasn't alone. So I'm just putting that out there. But again, I'm not going to revisit it to confirm that. I just feel there's something to be with that too. And that was all I had for this reading. I want to thank you for listening. Love, light, healing to everyone in that area. This was truly horrible. And again, I'm Lynn, and thank you for listening. Please feel free to leave a comment, like me, share me. In this day and age of censorship, you know, anything you do helps me out so much, and I'm so grateful. And again, psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thank you, and bye.